Before we go any further, there are going to be some spoilers in this game, so if you've not completed it, go pick up your controller, beat the game, and then come back to this video. Without further ado, let's get right into it. What is going on, guys? It is Considered Chaos, and finally, I have finally beat Crimson Desert, and today we're going to be doing a game review on the full game. We're going to go ahead and split it up into several different categories, including gameplay and mechanics, story and narrative, graphics and art style, sound design and music, and then replayability and value. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to go ahead and give you my chaotic review on the game as a whole. Let's go ahead and get started. Gameplay and combat is where Crimson Desert truly shines for me. It's fast, it feels heavy, and incredibly satisfying when you land your shots on an enemy or a boss, and it just feels heavy and it feels strong once you hit that specific enemy. You have access to a wide arsenal of weapons, whether you find them through exploring or through puzzles or just continuing throughout the story and beating those bosses and enemies and getting specific loot and gear that better progresses you through the story. I can tell you that pretty early into the story, you are allowed to explore, go around looking for certain items and gear and loot. I can tell you specifically, when I went up into the Payloon area, I believe, at the start of the game, I found the Darkbringer sword, or Darkbreaker, I forget what it's called now, but it's a pretty powerful sword, and I found that and some armor that I pretty much took throughout the entire story. You can upgrade it as much as you want to, you find the materials, and you go ahead and just upgrade it, and you can pretty much get that pretty early into the game, which I definitely think is a pretty cool thing to add. Boss fights in particular are intense and cinematic, often requiring multiple attempts to master. However, this is also where one of the game's biggest frustrations come in for me, that the boss difficulty can spike pretty hard. Some encounters feel borderline impossible and punishing, especially if you're not perfectly geared or leveled. While this adds to the sense of accomplishment when you do beat that boss or that enemy that you are struggling with, it can occasionally feel like the game is testing your patience more than the skill that you have there in that moment. And I did want to mention that I know that that was a common issue with the players of this game, is that Crimson Desert doesn't allow you to change the difficulty of the story. However, Pearl Abyss did hear people with that, and in the most recent update add that difficulty slider and now lets you change whether you want to play an easy story or a hard mode story, which is definitely pretty cool of them, and that definitely is going to raise my score specifically. Story and character development. Good, but not great. You play as Cliff, a warrior trying to reunite his scattered faction and restore order to a fractured land. The premise is solid, and there are moments where the narrative genuinely pulls you in, but overall the story doesn't hit as hard as it could. Characters feel underdeveloped. Emotional moments don't always land, and side quests often lack depth or impact. Some missions feel like filler rather than meaningful additions to the story. While there are definitely standout quests and missions, others feel repetitive or lack clear direction. One of the game's biggest strengths is the freedom and exploration, right? But it's also one of the game's biggest weaknesses. Crimson Desert gives you very little hand-holding. You are encouraged to explore, experiment, and figure things out on your own. And that's great for the immersion and realism, but it can also lead to confusion. Mission direction can be vague, objectives aren't always clearly communicated. You may find yourself wandering without a clear goal. For some players, this adds the sense of adventure. For others, including me, it can feel frustrating and disjointed. And this is definitely one of my biggest issues with the game, was the quest and missions and constantly getting stuck on certain puzzles and certain areas that they wanted me to be in, and having to look it up on Google or YouTube and watch someone else do it because it wasn't giving me any sense of direction on how to do it myself. For example, there was one part of the game where it's like, you know, you need to be in this area, but it doesn't give you any more information than that. So you have to look it up, and then you find out you have to go to your inventory, put on a certain helmet, stand in a certain spot of the building, hold out your lantern, and then you can actually read the memory of whatever mission you were on. And that can definitely be very, very annoying to me. Another example was, okay, so it tells you to go to this town, right? Be in this town, but it doesn't give you any more information than that. So you then have to look it up, and you find out that you have to be in this town, you have to be walking around, you'll get, you know, shoulder checked by this dude. He'll, you know, give you a letter, and then you have to read that letter, and then it tells you where to go. Okay, well, why didn't the game tell me that that was going to happen, or lead me in the direction that that was going to happen? And you definitely find yourself in those type of situations constantly throughout the story, and that definitely throws people off, having to look it up and figure out what you're doing every other mission. And I think that there is definitely a solution to that. There are other games like Tomb Raider, Destiny, stuff like that, where it's like after a certain amount of time, whether it's 2 or 3 minutes, you're not in the right location, it'll ping where you need to go. And I think maybe adding that to the game, or, you know, a sequel, if they ever do a sequel, and just kind of giving someone a little bit more of a sense of direction with certain quests and missions. Graphics and art style. Guys, this is another area of the game where it just absolutely shines. This is the most beautiful open world game that I have ever played in my entire life. Everything about it, everything about the grass and the trees and the view distance. Oh my gosh, the view distance of this game, to where you could just look at a mountain and it looks clear as day from the complete other side of the map, is one of just the craziest things ever. I cannot believe this engine that they built this game on. And the art style, whether you're in Hernand and everything's, you know, medieval themed, or if you're in the desert and you know, everything's hot and it feels humid, and people are struggling to live there, or the Abyss, where, you know, things are a little bit more futuristic. I think everything in terms of the graphics and art style has to be studied by other developers for games in the future. I did want to mention something on the graphical and performance side of things. I know that some people struggled with maybe some visual glitches or performance glitches. I can tell you that I played on the PS5 Pro and I didn't experience any visual or performance issues at all. You know, I played at a constant 60 frames at 4K, upscaled 4K, and I have a VRR TV, so I was at a constant 60 frames or more, and I didn't experience any issues on the PS5 Pro. Sound design and music. Now, sound design is something that I could lean either way on. I experienced some good things about it. I experienced some bad things about it. I can tell you that, you know, some of the issues were you'd be in a cutscene and you would have a character fall down into a table, and it's like, okay, well, why didn't we hear the audio for that character falling down into that table? And, you know, you definitely see some things like that, but you see some good things as well, like being on a horse, and, you know, it goes over the dock and you can hear its you know, steps on the dock very well, or going through some grass and you can hear it kind of going across the horse's skin. And there's definitely some good things about the sound design, but then there's also some things that probably could have been tweaked. The music was absolutely top-notch, some of the best I've ever seen in a video game, whether you're loading into the game or teleporting or getting ready to fight a giant gorilla boss. Just feels awesome. It feels like you're just getting put into a world of destruction, and it's so great. I think Pearl Abyss did an absolute beautiful job on the music design, and definitely looking to, you know, more moving forward with them. Replayability and value. Now, I think you absolutely get lots of replayability in this game. Even though I have completely beat all of the main story quests, there are tons and tons of side quests that I can do, other weapons that I can get, puzzles that I can go find. There's absolutely a lot more to do in this game, lots and lots of hours, maybe even hundreds of hours of content left to do after the main story quest, and I think they absolutely did an amazing job on the replayability. In terms of value, I spent $70 on this game. I think absolutely it was worth the money. I have been playing for a month. You know, there was times where I would play for a few hours throughout the night. There was times I didn't play at all, but then I would always come back to it. I had 101 hours played to beat this game, and I think absolutely it was worth the $70 that I spent, and I would do it again for sure, because there's still so much more content to go through in this game. Absolutely amazing. Which leads me to my score for the game Crimson Desert. Crimson Desert gets a chaotic score of 8.2 out of 10. Guys, I absolutely loved this game overall. While there were some things that I disliked about it, I absolutely loved it so much. Like I said, I spent $70 on this game, and it has given me over a month of content, over 100 hours of playtime, and I would absolutely buy this game again. And I look forward to more content with this game moving forward. You know, there's rumors of it having an online mode and maybe even some DLCs, which would be absolutely sick. And Pearl Abyss has done an absolutely amazing job, guys. We're talking a game that was just released, a story mode game that isn't supposed to be live service. However, Pearl Abyss has, you know, come out and speaking to fans and creating updates and more content than most live service games that I know that are out right now. And they've just done an amazing job, and I look forward to playing more Crimson Desert and more content in the future. And guys, that'll pretty much do it for today's video and this game review. If you guys liked it, go ahead and drop a like on the video. Let me know down in the comments section what you thought of Crimson Desert and what you thought of my opinion of the game. And yeah, that'll be pretty much it. Go ahead and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next review.